1 o'clock. Are we ready to go?
Yes.
Let's do this.
All right, here we go. Thanks so much for being on time. This is Tuesday. I think it's, I don't know, June 9th, and it's celebrity role play time. And today we have a top producing agent that I don't know that we had a pleasure of meeting. He came highly recommended from another top producing agent, and that's how the word spreads. We find these celebrities. Brock Zevan, and he's out of Charlotte area. And so, Brock, you're there. Why don't you tell the folks here a little bit about you before we go into the celebrity role play, and then we'll let you do one.
Sure. Well, Denny, I definitely appreciate the opportunity to be on here. So yeah, I've been doing this for 12 years. Before my career here, I've been doing, I was a school teacher, kind of got into PE, and assistant principal, and I was a football coach. And that kind of transformed. I took that same mentality and brought it into the real estate and into the team. And so I coaching with kind of the not kind of, but role play, accountability, discipline, overcoming adversity with challenges. And so that's what our team does now. So we're up here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And let's see, what else can I say? That's kind of it.
Brock, let me ask you a question. Is that background noise coming from behind you?
Oh, hold on one second. Hey guys, sorry. Go for it. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. How big's your team, Brock?
So prior to Corona, we were at 18 people on our team, and now with after Corona, we're at 6. So there's certain things you can only keep track of, and I share that to tell people that challenges do take place at any level, whether you're an individual, a team level, running a larger company. You got to handle the adversity that we're with, because unfortunately it is what it is out there. And so yeah, so our team is where we are right now, and we're still doing pretty good. In June we had 22 closings last month, so we're still kicking and shaking and doing the best we can, and things get brighter and brighter each month as we move away from the Corona.
Yes, and your state's not even fully opened up yet, right?
No, we still have not hit phase 3 yet. We're very good on certain aspects of what we can and what we can't do. Our biggest challenge is nobody knows what we're going to do at schools, and so
Right.
that plays a big question in a lot of people's minds. And that objection we hear quite a bit of is, I like to know a little bit more certainty what the schools are going to look like. So that's been our biggest challenge and obstacle, because we don't have an answer, and the governor hasn't shed any light on that.
Well, again, thanks so much for being on the call today. I know you do a lot of coaching and webinars yourself, so it's a real treat to have you. And the guys, I'm sure, will have some objections maybe to throw your way. So as this is your first time, and if there's other people here for the very first time on the Denny Delivers scripts, and it really started scripts for a C19 market. However, we're going to be reviewing kind of the concepts that I like to follow. And so if you're new or if you're not, this is a review. I believe that there's more than one way to play a chess match. There's more than one way to grip a golf club. I believe in question-based, listening enhanced conversational scripts. Now that's an awesome saying. It probably would never fit on a vanity license plate. However, I want you to kind of master this art, because it's not about memorizing a lot of words. I find out people that are basically learning their scripts, and everyone has to crawl before they run, right? They're thinking about so much about what they want to say next. They totally miss what the buyer or seller or the potential client's saying to you. And I think we're missing out on the little pearls they're giving us, because I really believe if we listen carefully, not only to the words they say, however, if we layer our questions to develop the meaning behind the words, they will, and many times, give us the combination to unlock their soul, so to speak, so we can have that type of relationship. Now, I didn't invent the steps here. I'm just going to elaborate on them. So when we go through the celebrity role play, and we had somebody actually on Facebook requested several other role plays, and if we have time, we'll get to those and maybe some situations you have. And the formula is pretty simple. You acknowledge. You want to make them not feel wrong, so acknowledge. And here's where we slow down. Years ago, I remember as a kid watching Nestle Quick. And you know what? They talked about having the slows. And so what I want us to do is slow down and really isolate. And you know that I have a slide that's coming up. It's unload and unpack. Then we're going to address it. Notice I didn't say overcome it because, you know, we're not there to overcome all their objections. We're there to address them. Because as Gary says, it's service first, sales next. So we're not going to get anyone in some sort of hammerlock and have them do something that they don't want to do or hypnotize them to bark like a dog. And then we're going to close. And the red asterisk is, you can see behind me, the challenge is all via questions. And so I've come up and I keep adding to this slide different ways of acknowledging. I understand, I see, okay. Or if you're from Canada, I can see why you're saying that. I've heard that from others. Perfect, awesome, groovy, etc. So those are all ways you can say acknowledge someone who has a lot of different concerns. You don't have to say okay all the time. And here's my favorite slide. Basically, first timers really quick. And this is the metaphor to remember. When you go to the grocery store, come back from vacation, when you're allowed to go again, you don't take one suitcase in, one bag of groceries in, put everything away, put the eggs in the refrigerator. No, you unload, then unpack. In other words, guys, I tell you what, here's the thing. If we're going to do surgery, let's figure out where they hurt. We want to get to the center of the Tootsie Roll Pop. And what's interesting is that when I believe every client we meet is kind of like a chessboard. And in chess, I think I Googled it. I could be wrong. There's like, there's not a lot of first move possibilities. I think there's 40 some. However, second move possibilities, it gets exponential, right? So the script we would need is probably the opening move. Or let me give you another metaphor, because I grew up in Ohio and I grew up next to a bowling alley. And so I worked at a bowling alley through school. In fact, I spent more time at the bowling alley than I did in school, and my grades kind of showed that. Here's the thing. We bowled and we played pool. So I got to be relatively good at pool, and everyone who's ever played pool, whatever level, the break is the only shot you have total control over. Where you put the balls are always lined up the same way. So that's the metaphor I'm going to introduce you guys to help you remember the scripting is the break. Now, every time you break, the balls are I'm sure never in exactly the same spot. There you're going to go for basically once you get the balls on the table, you're going to be asking questions. It's kind of like shooting balls in different order and getting position. You're going to be asking questions in order to discover where they are. I've said this before. If someone's lost, your loved one's lost, they're going to call you. I'm lost. Your first question is, okay, well, where are you? I know you're lost. You got to know what state are you in? So those are the metaphors that I want to remind those people that are watching on Facebook or watching this via Zoom. And we're going to do the celebrity role play. Now, Brock was cool enough to say, okay, he actually changed his schedule. Thanks so much, Brock. And the rules are he gets to choose a buyer or seller, whatever scenario he wants. And again, I forgot to tell you this, Brock, as they're always like the secret things. You always, you didn't ask any questions anyway, so you deserve this. These are not lead generation scripts. They're at the table. These are objections you get from a buyer or seller once you're at the table. You get to determine the degree of difficulty. And Brock, do I have any earthly idea what you're going to do? No. Yeah, and I know that you probably lost sleep. And you're from North Carolina. You guys aren't very mean, although I will tell you that I'm a big football fan. You guys, I'm a Buck fan. Panthers are in our division, so we have Brady. So
I was going to say, you're happy now you got Brady.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah.
One more rule, you guys that have been on the call before, the Jims, the Johns, and everybody else here. Judy, you're probably out there somewhere. Here's a new rule, and this is going to be a new challenge. The celebrity can pick the time frame, how long I have, because I want to show you. Sometimes I go through these role plays. I'm showing you the slow motion version. However, there's some clients out there are going to be the more assertive, or if you're on the disc, the D personalities. So Brock, you can say, give me a time frame, or you can limit the number of questions that I ask you. And this kind of could be fun. I've never done this before. So Mr. Brock, Zevan, what is the scenario, buyer or seller?
Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is your metaphor with the pool table was phenomenal. I wrote down so many at pool because that is so true. And I just want to say like that was really, really good. So I took a lot of notes on that pool table. So that was my biggest aha that I've taken away so far. As far as clarity, I just want to make sure that I'm appropriate on what I'm here for. So I'm going to be a seller. And are we at the listing table? Is that where we are? And I'm going to give you.
Yeah, this is not a lead gen call. I'll let you handle that and people that lead gen. I win at the table. That's how that's kind of my forte. So yeah, we're at a table and it could be a listing interview. However, not on the phone, we're at the table.
Okay, so it's a listing interview. I'm the seller, and you know, I probably would say that I like this to take place. I don't know the exact. When you say time, you know, I don't want you to be on here for. I'm gonna be. I don't want to be on here too long. So 5 minutes is my where I want you to make a decision or tell me what I'm gonna give you on the deal.
So all right. So 5 minutes and Sonny, if you're listening, would you be, I'll tell you when to start the timer. Just give me a 1 minute notice. So I basically have to either get you to list if you're, you know, if possible, that's at the end of the role play. And on a degree of difficulty, kind of like a diver, what's the degree of difficulty? Anywhere, as we know, we don't learn from a 1 or a 2, an 8 or a 9 may be a little more unreasonable. So what would you like to be today?
I'm gonna give you a little bit of a challenge and not let you off too easy with a 7.
Your Panthers don't stand a chance. Okay, I knew you'd do that. Okay.
You guys got Tom Brady now, so.
All right, here we go. You all ready? So Sonny, you can start the timer. So, you know, thanks so much, Brock, for having me over. I know that we talked about a few things on the phone coming over here, and just give me a couple of seconds, kind of review that so we kind of know the scenario. You're in the process of selling your home here in Charlotte, right? And you're moving to Orlando. Is that correct?
Yes.
And let me ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 meaning, you know, you would move, you know, if you really wanted to or had to, or 10 meaning you'd like to be moved in the next 60 to 90 days, where would you find yourself on that scale?
We're probably at a 7 right now.
Awesome. So what would it take to get you to a 10, Brock?
Well, getting a little clarity around the system because we're trying to figure out what's going on down in Florida just as much as we're closing up school up here as well. So we're trying to finalize that and what that looks like.
So you want clarity in Florida as far as when school's open?
Yeah, because we don't know what's taking place down in Orlando with our being relocating down there. I'm not too sure exactly when school is supposed to start up. So we're still trying to figure that puzzle piece out on our timing.
So I'm going to step out of role. So this shouldn't kind of gets me time-wise. I want to make sure I explain. Here's where a lot of agents, and again, there's more than one way to play a chess game. Here's where a lot of agents get a little bit sidetracked on, I think kind of minor stuff. What's the age of your kids? You know, blah, blah, blah. You know, what colors do they like? I'm being a little facetious there. Notice I'm not going down that road because this is a very, very important time in our conversation. Why? Because we're going to unload before we unpack. Many times when you get sidetracked, digging and digging and digging on the first thing they say, we never get to the second or third or fourth thing that they may have concerns over. And my favorite term is you're going to be playing whack-a-mole throughout the whole transaction because you haven't gotten all the groceries out of the car. And trust me, if you ever leave bacon in the car over a weekend or something like that out in the hot sun, it's not going to be very pleasant. So I'm not going to dig on that yet. I am going to unload. So the best script to use right now is other than getting clarity on what's going on in the schools down there, what else would have to happen, Brock, for you to be at a 10?
You know, there's a couple things that we had in reference that we have to get the house ready for. We've been thinking about, and that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, whether or not we need to paint upstairs. And we were thinking about putting granite in our kitchen.
Okay. Notice I'm not going to go in there yet because what have we gotten to the center of the Tootsie Roll Pop? That'd be a big fat no. All right. Awesome, Brock. I'm making some notes and I'm just going to assume that, you know, the decision makers are there and he can speak for his wife too or whatever. So I know that maybe, so if there's a wife, she's sitting right there, they're in agreement. obviously that could be another complex issue, and that's not this role play. We can do that. However, I would ask you, why would you be at a meeting without all the decision makers there, which would be a question you want to ask before you get there. All right. So, all right. I understand that we can cover those types of things. Other than those two things, what else has to happen, Brock, for this to be a 10 for you?
That'd be about it, really. There's nothing else that we have. We're just we're looking forward to this next venture, and you know, that would be about it.
Now, one thing because we have 5 minutes, do I know what his motivation is? No, I really don't know. And what's taking you to Florida? The first thing he mentioned was his family. Okay, so so when do you start your new job? I'm just going to be assumptive there.
So we're starting. It was supposed to be in June, but with the coronavirus, things have been pushed. So they gave me a little bit of extra time to August 1st.
Okay. And to August 1st. All right. And so that's when you start your job. Ideally, when would you like to be in a home in Orlando?
I like to be able to be in a home probably by, I'd like to by the end of June be locked and loaded and moved in there. It doesn't give us much time, but at the same token, it's probably end of July for sure.
1 minute.
1 minute? You can't count the time I'm going off script. Stop it.
I didn't. I stopped it.
All right. So, all right. I'm going to have to go fast here. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you the meat thermometer. Does anyone on there know the meat thermometer? This is not my time, Sonny. Give him the meat thermometer. Come on, you guys. Jim, you've been on this call a number of times. John, what is the meat thermometer? So let me ask you, Brock, there's no right or wrong, your opinion on the market. I know there's a lot of uncertainty out there. Do you think the market's working in your favor or working against you?
Oh, it's definitely a seller's market. I was told that a lot of the homes in my neighborhood are selling we actually entertained doing a for sale by owner.
You were thinking about doing it by owner?
Yeah, we were thinking about it just because a lot of the homes in our neighborhood sell so quickly.
So is that still a consideration for you?
I think because of our time constraint, it's not anymore.
So what would have to happen for us to do business today?
Well, one is get a little understanding of what's going on for Orlando. So I'm not too sure if you can help us out with that. Secondly, I'd like to take a look at your numbers to see where you are. One of the other agents that we talked to said that they would lower their commission. So that was an important factor as well. But outside of that, that would be about it.
Now, you notice, again, we're stepping in, and this is kind of like a 5-minute listing presentation, not realistic. Obviously, there might be some things up front, interviewing other agents. So on the phone, you said that you were interviewing other agents, and I was number 3. Have you interviewed the other 2 yet?
Yes.
Okay, and so obviously, you didn't hire those guys, correct?
No, I did not. I want to hear you.
Okay, would you say then, because you haven't already made that decision, they didn't make your socks roll up and down, so would it be fair to say this is my game to lose here today?
It is. You're absolutely right.
Okay, how can I make it a win for you so we can walk out and get your home on the market right away?
Well, the other agent was going to tell me that they were going to list the property for 5.5%, and typically it's 6%. And I need the extra money now for moving costs to head down to Florida. So if that's something you're willing to do, I really like your presentation. I like what you bring to the table. But if you're willing to do that, then that could be a really good turning point.
Okay, so let me ask you then, it's for clarity then, are you saying then if we were to agree at 5.5% right now, that you're ready to sign the papers and move on with me?
Yes.
So I know I'm late, and we can break down. I'll give you a script on that. We've kind of talked about this before. There's like 3 or 4 different ways for me to go. Here's what I want to drive home to you guys. Quit answering all these questions and objections unless you ask them the conditional question. Well, if we can work that out, are you prepared to do business with me today? Ask that, because if they say no, what you want to say? Okay, well, tell me more. What else would have to happen besides the fee for you to feel comfortable moving forward with me today. Don't be afraid they're going to bring something up you don't know how to answer, because here's the deal. If you choose not to deal with it now, you'll deal with it later, even if you get the chance to have the listing. So now I know, basically, just assuming here on this quick role play that's really 5 minutes, I think that clock was fast, is that it's going to boil down to commission. Now, you get this all the time. We had this happen with one of our past clients yesterday. So there's a couple really fast, and I won't go into the role. I won't let him go into the answers. I want to make sure you understand the logic if there's people here that don't have this nailed. So let me ask you something, Brock. What's more important to you, what you pay in commission or what you net? They're going to say what? What do you mean, what I net? Right?
Well, yeah, I was just saying the net number is the most important number to me.
Right. Okay. So then would it be possible, have you ever bought anything you thought you were paying less for and it cost you more in the long run?
My boat, I thought it was going to be a lot, ended up being pretty expensive.
Yeah, well, my wife is kind of always cost me more in the long run too. So here, she probably never watched this, so don't worry about that. So the other thing is, okay, so let me ask you a question. When your agent came in, was he at X% and you asked him the discount and he did it X minus something?
Yep, I just basically, I mean, if you don't ask, you don't know.
So you guys know where I'm going, right? So let me ask you then, would you want your agent to be a strong negotiator for you?
Oh, of course.
Okay, well, what kind of negotiating skills did that agent show when they gave away 1/3 of their commission, basically, or maybe a third or 25% of their commission, just by you asking how quickly would they give your money away? Another question you're going to want to ask them is this: when they said 5.5%, are they going to take it off both sides, or are they going to take it off their side, or are they going to take it off the buyer's side? What's going to happen most likely when you ask that question? What's the seller going to say?
That's a huge question. A lot of that lately. So that's a very good point, Denny.
Most likely the seller's not going to know. Why? Because they're assuming they're taking it off the listing side. So here's the thing. What if they took the 2.5% off the buying side? I mean, they don't know. Most likely, they might split it. Now you know where to go with that. So are you saying basically that you'd want your house at a disadvantage versus houses down the street? So anyone on the call, so basically what I'm going to do is sell my value. We had a past customer that, this is like the third or fourth time. And because we had it's a builder. And so we've been able to do many of their houses. We gave them a preferred rate. Now they wanted the preferred rate less something. And the script was, when they come back to you, a past customer, sometimes we feel guilty. And this is what I gave my agents. I just go back and say, well, what did we do wrong the last time? I mean, we had multiple offers and we sold it over asking price. So are you thinking we didn't do a good job for you? Likely. And you know what? You can just say no too. I know that Jim Reitzel has I don't know if he's on the call because I don't have that screen up right now. He was on, and his son did a really good webinar a week or so ago about fighting for your money. Is there any questions that come in the chat? Does anyone want to talk or add something about this particular role play before we let Brock kind of go and show us his muscles when it comes to scripting? You guys don't be shy. Come on, he's from North Carolina. He doesn't bite. He might chew, he doesn't bite.
Well, Danny, I think I'd like to ask him first if the commission is really, truly the most important factor of us getting this listing today.
Step back and roll, Brock.
So when commission comes up, it depends on their personality. Sometimes it's pretty simple. I make it very short and sweet. And I'd say, Jim, that's a very good question. A lot of sellers ask that question, but unfortunately I can't. Do you have any other questions for me?
So did you want to role play with him, or are you asking him how he did it, Jim?
I was just role playing with him if that was the most important factor to him.
Okay, so just role play that with him just for a second, Brock.
So,
Yes, we asked that question. He says, yes, he'd do business if it wasn't for the 5.5%.
so
Okay, if that's the most important factor, then I'd have to go back to the fact that the other agent that agreed to knock his commission down 0.5%, he done that at the drop of a hat. Do you expect me to do that on your behalf when I'm negotiating for you?
Yeah, there you go. Bingo.
no, I think both Jim and Denny, that's the biggest thing. We use that line as well as like, you know, if I can play around with my money or so quickly, what do you think I'm going to do with your, both those, I think they're all three the same. And one of the things that I coach and tell people is it depends on your personality and it also depends on the person on the other side, because you don't know exactly, but knowing just the conversation of what it sounds like the people who say like, I can only negotiate this and you sound like a robot. Well, of course that's the type of thing you're going to get, but your conversation is important. So Jim and Denny, both of you on what you said is that exactly what I use as well as the negotiating of money. But I think, Denny, you also brought a key ingredient. It's what your value is. Actually, Michael Burke and I were role playing this morning, and I talked about the value of where the dollars and cents are and what makes people stand out. And a lot of times everybody can do the normal Matterport, virtual, everything else. But the key ingredients that I share when I do my value, when it comes time for some of this stuff, when I'm trying to showcase myself is, well, one of the things I do is I'm a top negotiator. If you just out negotiated me on my commission, what am I going to do with another professional on the other side? They're going to eat me alive. So you're hiring me to be a negotiator. That's what I'm really, really good at, to be honest with you. That's why I've been in sales for so long. And the other thing is customer service. I'm going to provide the utmost customer service because there's two things that buy, and they can't buy a negotiator and they can't buy somebody who can give you customer service, because I rather over communicate than under communicate. Whereas anybody can go buy virtual tours, Matterports, and do all that stuff. So here's the thing that separates me, and it's the negotiating and it's the customer service. And then I usually follow it up with testimonials if people want.
Yes. Now, Jim Reitzel, are you or any of your team on? Because one of the points your son made at that webinar that I want to hit, are you guys here? Was a key point. I mean, I can't believe I didn't think of it myself. I mean, I may have thought about it at some point in time. However, I've forgotten it. I've been in real estate so long, I've thought of things and I've forgotten them then. So here's the thing. If a listing agent were to give up, in the example that was given, so we're careful talking about commission, from a 3 to 2.5%, what percent is that? What is it? 20%?
3 to 2.5% was what I guess I'm trying to.
Well, whatever it is, dude, you have a calculator. Let's just say it's 20%.
Yeah.
That's key. It's not $3,000, $4,000, or $6,000.
Mm-hmm.
So if an agent, this is going back to what Jim said a minute ago, if an agent's going to give up 20% of their income at the drop of the hat, how would you like them to give away 20% of your equity?
Mm-hmm. That's a great.
That is a pearl that Jim's son made, Jim Reitzel. So now it's your turn. Now it is your turn that so what is your gig? We want to role play. Now you can pick the scenario because you're the guest. And buyer, seller, lead gen, what is your basically, what would you like to do for us today? And I'll ask someone to role play with you, or maybe I'll just role play with you.
I mean, we can either repeat the same thing that we did since it's the same topic, or if somebody in the crowd's got something that they've been really wanting to have or hear somebody role play, I'm pretty much open to anything and everything that somebody wants to throw out at me. So has anybody got something out there that they've suddenly came up with, or an objection that they want to hear how we handle it?
Yeah, so now's the chance. Maybe you have an appointment coming up. Maybe you had the objection yesterday or last night. Here's a chance to have a real pro give you his take on it. This is money. money. I have some. If you don't, I'm giving you, because you're here, I'm going to give you first dibs.
Okay, there's not a lot of expireds, but the few that are, they're just worn out. They're tired.
All right,
So-
John,
Yes, sir.
then Brock, you want to call John and he's an expired?
Sure.
Okay, ring, ring, go.
Hello, this is Brock Zevan on behalf of Compass Real Estate Group with EXP. How are you?
I'm good, Brock. If you're a realtor, man, we are worn out, dude. I mean, I've gotten calls, people telling me my house is expired, and I know it is. My wife and I we just want to take a break.
Sure. No, I completely understand. How long was your house on the market for?
We had it on the market for 4 months.
4 months. And what do you think caused the home not to sell during those 4 months?
You know, we had a couple of offers, and they just fell through. I think we just had flighty buyers.
Flighty buyer. Okay. And what do you think caused the home? Was it a lowball offer or what? Why didn't they go through on that?
No, it was at list price. They just decided to walk away. Nothing stood out on inspections or anything like that. And just
Okay. No. Now, if one of those deals did go through, where are you moving to?
we're moving to Tucson.
Oh, Tucson. Very nice. Did you have a house out there already that you picked out?
Oh yeah, we actually have a nice condo that we're just gonna live there year round instead of just going in the winter.
Okay. So did you already purchase it?
Oh yeah, we own it. We own it.
Oh, you already own that house. Okay. So what has you selling this house now then?
We're just gonna stay in Tucson full time.
Oh, very nice. Okay. And how long have you lived where you are right now? I don't have my paperwork in front of me, so I do apologize.
We lived there 18 years.
Oh, 18 years. So I'm sure you probably have a lot of equity built into your home right now, don't you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So what are you going to do with that equity? You going to go vacationing, just live out in Tucson and just live it up, or what are you planning?
We're gonna vacation and put some money away for my grandkids' education.
Can I
Okay.
freeze you guys just for a moment? I want
Yeah.
to freeze you guys. I don't know if you're picking up on this. I've counted 10 questions. He didn't start vomiting on them about all the things he can do to get the house sold. That's one thing. He's said 10 questions. And for a guy that's tired, here's the other thing. He did not bite on the fact that he was I'm so weird all these people are calling. He just went into discovery about what? Motivation.
Motivation.
So I'll let you go back to it. However, I'm keeping track. He's not made a statement yet. He's not thumped his chest to say how good he is, how he specializes in helping sellers sell their house. He's getting into discovery. In other words, he's allowing the seller to load his quiver of arrows so he knows what arrows to shoot. Go ahead.
So true. It is. It's like a game in my head. So John, based off of what you're saying to me, you got some good equity in your property and you've got a place out there in Tucson. Are you familiar with any of our marketing strategies that we use?
No, I forgot what company you told me you were with, man.
Yeah, no, it happens all the time. And so that's no problem at all. And that's so important. What I would like to do is this, if you don't mind. I like to share with you some of our marketing strategies and what we do differently to sell homes. So that way I can get you. Is it just you selling your house, John?
It's my wife and I.
Okay, and what's your wife's name?
Cynthia.
Cynthia?
Yep.
I love to get you and Cynthia out in Tucson full time, enjoying your equity, going on a nice vacation. And if I could do that for you, would you mind giving me 30 minutes of your time?
Man, what are you gonna do different than my last agent? He had the Matterport and the 3D tours, and with this whole COVID thing, we had the booties and antiseptic and all kind of stuff. So, what are you gonna do different?
Hang on just a second. Hang on. I hate to interrupt you. This is your role play. I'm anxious to hear your question, how you're going to answer that, because I don't do a lot of expired calls. Obviously you do. So go ahead and give your answer. Then I want to give my answer, because what a setup. Go ahead, Brock.
No, that's a really good question, John. And a lot of people, they like to ask that question, because that's a huge component. Is what's the difference between marketing? Because as you said, is you already able to nail some of the things. Let me ask you this, if you don't mind, since you're wondering about the marketing. Like, what was it, the marketing that kind of a little crazy that you wish your agent did?
Say that again. You broke up.
So I was saying that, you know, I know you knew a lot of the information already, the Matterports, the drones and everything else that's there. But what was it that was kind of driving you crazy that you wish your agent did more of that you think maybe didn't cause the home to sell?
I wish maybe he would have followed up more with the buyers on why exactly they were backing out, and if it was actually something that we did,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or something we could have done to the house. But you know, everybody gave feedback that it was a great house. And
John, I promise you I can't make this up, but do you want to know what the number one reason why people expire and what they get upset with?
what?
Lack of communication. There was
Okay.
just no communication from the agent. They put up a sign. They talked to you for the first. Probably, is that fair to say what your agent did to you?
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty good at letting us know. I mean, we had our weekly calls, and that
1 minute.
that was pretty much it. So
So let's do this. I know you're not too sure. You got a bad taste in your mouth right now because of what took place and what transpired with your other agent. I'm going to be in your area tomorrow around 3 o'clock. I also work on Saturdays and I have a 10 o'clock available. I love you just to share with you about what we do differently and at least coming away with a better grasp of what other agents are doing out there. Would you be able to at least give me 30 minutes with you and your wife?
yeah, you can come by Saturday.
How does 10
Saturday
o'clock
morning is
sound?
good.
All right, so close to the appointment. Nice job. So you guys, John, what'd you pick up there? Anybody else? Let's give them a couple little ahas. I wrote down, I already gave you my first blank was all the questions.
Yeah,
I wrote down a couple of ahas since then. So what did you guys pick up?
He never pushed, like you said, about, hey, look, you know, this is what we do. He just said, I want to share with you what we do.
He was friendly. That's that
Yeah.
Carolina coming out in him.
Okay.
Any
No.
other ahas?
Most of the time in answering that, John, you'll find out that when you just talk to people, and I was doing it today in the role play, and if you just talk about the big elephant in the room, that they're frustrated, they got a in their mouth, they're not very happy. It's like, I don't want to go through this, especially right now. You gotta absorb it, understand it, and then put together like a puzzle piece. It's like we dismantled the puzzle and now I'm going to rebuild you back up and I'm going to do it in a better way. At least in my way, it's going to be a better way. And so I find that just nobody really gives a rat's, you know what, on whether or not what I do and how much business I do. They care about themselves selfishly, and it's nothing wrong with that, but that's what they want to know is like, what are you going to do for me and how can you change this around? Because that's why I add that emotion piece of if I'm able to do this for you and get you in a place, I put it in I almost say it in a way that it's almost dumb for them to say no. Like, well, if I can get you here making the money and get this with your equity and you can live in Tucson and go on vacation, I got to believe your wife's going to be happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote down a couple different things, you guys. Number one, when you made a statement and then, oh, I never heard of your company. And he gave such a great, like, forgiving answer. Oh, that happens all the time. What a great line. Because you're thinking like, oh, what are you, some sort of nincompoop? You never heard of Keller Williams or EXP or whoever you're with, right? However, what a great line. That happens all the time. I felt like good, and he wasn't even talking to me, right? Secondly, when he went to the about the appointment, right? Then he said, he never said, I'm going to get your home sold. He said, I want to get you moved to Tucson, get you playing golf or whatever. He tied it into emotion. He also did a great job of making sure, oh, your wife, what's her name? Make sure, you know, who's involved so that he could close for the appointment then. The one thing that I wanted to say.
Name too is key. When you say their name, it seems to strike a little bit more.
Yes, of course. That goes back to, you know, Dale Carnegie. People love their names. And when it comes to the act of listening, you guys make sure I didn't used to do this when I was younger in the business because I was just flying by the seat of my pants. However, the more that I want to instruct my team, I want them to start to write things down. Like when you hear a name, write it down. When you hear something, write it down. Tucson, you could feed it back to them. Here is something that just kind of like popped out at me and I had to interrupt you. So what are you going to do different that my other agent didn't do? I don't know if you ever used this or not. I've never thought of it before, and maybe it's so common, it's like no big deal. I'd say, I'm going to get you moved to Tucson.
No, that's
Anyway,
no, I like that. And just to share how that portion of it, because I really like that one that you just said there. One of the things I've learned when I flip the question onto them, I don't want to repeat something that pissed them off. So if I say to them, you know, what do differently is I'm going to do social media and this, then he might already say, like he already tried to, well, he did say, he said that, well, like my agent communicated or non-communicated, or my agent did this. So if I can find out what they did, what they weren't doing, what I'll do is I'll focus my attention on that, because that really hit home to him. A lot of times they do say not communicating. Bring up the education piece. Do you realize that most of it is non-communicating?
that was a great point. How many of you guys were waiting for him to say that 90% of homes don't sell because of price? That's not the right thing to say for an expired, right?
Right.
When you go to communication, most people will have a problem with that. I thought that was pretty brilliant. Last thing here I want to say, and we've got a couple other things that we can kind of tag team on, is I forget exactly where is it going with this. He did not do his entire presentation on the phone, did he? The issue is, what can you do different than my other agent did? I'm going to get your home sold. That's why I want to meet. Is 30 minutes okay? I got some time, blah, blah, blah. I got Saturday afternoon, go back and you close for the appointment. What happened today, and I'm glad to hear that Brock has his scripted role play every day. We have that with our team, and our director of growth has got that set up, and our guys they're getting really good. And Brock, this is something I've learned scripting and practicing with my team. I'm hearing things that I've never heard before because I'm more attuned with words. And so, for example, we were role playing the situation today of multiple offers. And I'm sure you guys on this call or watching via Facebook may have a seller having to deal with multiple offers or preparing a buyer for a multiple offer situation. So that was the scenario we were in. And, again, I'm not tattling on my team. This is how we learn, is that let my buyer agents kind of role play that to a potential buyer when they use the term, well, getting into a bidding war. Two of them use that. And again, I've never heard this taught. However, Brock, now that I'm listening differently, I went back and said, okay, here's the thing. When you're working with a buyer, I recommend you probably never use bidding war, because what is the one thing buyers hate to get into?
A war.
Yeah, that's the last thing they want to get into.
So I said, is there not another way? And this is what Brock is talking about on how to use the right words, right? And I said, why don't you say it is a competitive situation because this is one of those special properties. This is one of those special homes, right? Does that not sound a little bit like I want to step into it versus away from it? What are your thoughts on that, Brock?
No, I definitely agree. I mean, bidding wars or multiple offers right now are very challenging. I think the key ingredient when we do ours is you got to be upfront and share the expectations of what's about to take shape, because your buyer going into it is going to get disappointed if you go 1, 2, 3 homes, and every home that they lose, if you're naive at this, every home they lose, guess what? That maybe this isn't the right time. You have to make sure that you're ahead of the game, because if you tell them ahead of time, like, hey, I just want you to know, in this market right now, this is what's taking place. It's a seller's market. We're probably going to go into some multiple offers, but don't you worry. I got a strategy to win multiple offers. I'm going to do the best I can to help you win your offer, but I don't want you to be disappointed if it doesn't go, because sometimes we can't fight against cash and what we got going on, but we're going to do the best we can. So when it happens, guess what? Oh, Brock, you told me about this. So I was, makes sense now. Okay, we get it. But we're going to be ready the next time. Instead of them going down a little victimhood and getting all sad, they're like, okay, we were ready for this. And now they feel they also got a good person with them. Like, man, this guy really knows. He's already telling me ahead of time. He's got the winning strategy for us to win due diligences on what could take shape. So it makes your conversation so much easier, just as price improvements, if you set this ahead of time.
So in some of the prior classes we've talked about from the listing standpoint, I want to emphasize it because we're talking about buyers, and then we're going to go through a couple objections that people sent in. We're going to kind of rapid fire those. From a pricing standpoint, you guys know from if I'm on a listing appointment, write this down. Don't set prices, set expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in a buyer's appointment, don't set prices, set expectations. Here's the thing, in a multiple offer situation, if you give them the advice and they follow it to the T and they don't get the house, who are they going to blame?
Yep.
What will they take for the home? And, you know, we were in a role play today, and one of our agents, and again, I'm not tattling, this is how we learn, said, well, she thought really the best, well, you go $3,000 over. And when you start doing that and giving them specific advice,
Yep.
you're setting yourself up for danger. We had another property, and again, you guys see this, and this is a whole nother conversation. When we list a home, I don't like to see it going for way over asking price because I think that we probably underpriced it. However, on one of our properties that was on the market was going for 15 grand over about, it was about 7% over asking price. So here's the thing. What we do when we set expectations, we use, can you lay your head on the pillow and go to sleep? For example, if you do the best you can do, the most you're willing to do, and you don't get the home, whatever that number is, if you can go home and sleep at night, I can too. However, here's the thing. Many times buyers want it. How little do I have to give in order to get a house that I really want? And they end up losing all the time. And then you could use also a greater pain. What's going to, you know, so you're going to go $3,000 over asking price, right? I know your dad is going to kill you. However, if you find out it went $4,000 over asking price, how are you going to feel? Well, I don't think I feel very good. Then are you giving it your best? I want to get to the point where, you know what? I guess it wasn't meant to be. So Brock, here we go. Here's an objection. You guys have a seasonal market there?
Yeah.
We do.
Springtime, pretty much.
So this is kind of a seller wanting to delay. This came in from an agent. Again, I mean, our market is not as seasonal as people think it is, although we have a winter, a snowbird season, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to list until I get back for season. So season here is January through Easter. I don't like people in my property when I'm not there to check it out. Now, who wants to give me a blink on what the objection is? Where would you start with this? So I want to go to the people that have been on the call before, and Brock, you can certainly step in here. And going back to the formula, where do we start with this, you guys? Where do we start with this objection? Brock did it awesomely.
You acknowledge it.
Boom. How do you acknowledge it?
Well, I understand that you don't want people in your house when you're not there, and you rather be there when people
Hang on, no, hang on. Okay. Just when you acknowledge, just acknowledge it. Don't repeat it because you're anchored in their mind. Just acknowledge it. I hear you.
Okay.
Now what's next?
Other than that, is there anything else that would prevent you from listing?
Yeah, who is that? Was that you, Brock?
Matt.
Oh, Matt. All right. Good. I didn't know you were on the call. All right. So, well, no.
Wait a minute. You didn't know I was on the call?
Because I have my PowerPoint up, so I don't want to be distracted.
You can safely assume that I'm always on the call.
I got it. So Matt, yeah, I mean, I don't want to. I want the most for my property, and I don't want people walking through the house when I'm not there.
So you don't want people in the house, and you want the most from your property. Is that, other than those issues, is there anything else that is on your mind?
No.
Excellent. So tell me more about you not wanting people in your house. What does that look like?
Okay, so again, there's no bad questions. I would just figure out, I'd probably go, Matt, right now, of those two things, which one's the most important to you right now? If you could find out that you could get more money for your home now versus later, is there a way that we could mitigate people going into your house? You see, you're going to ask those types of questions because here's the thing. Do we know what the market's going to be like in January?
No.
Could COVID basically have an economic boomerang effect? Could there be a second wave? I mean, is there uncertainty out there? Yes or no? Absolutely. So
Always.
So I attempt to narrow it down to what the most important thing is. And here's the thing. Sometimes you've got to be willing to be a little bit out there. Well, I don't want to sell I don't want people in my house. I don't want to sell until season. Okay. So what's season going to bring? Well, season means nothing. I'm just going to be there. So what you're saying to me, if your home is worth $300,000 and I had a buyer willing to pay $400,000 for it, $100,000 over market value. However, he wants to go in it to see it. Are you saying that we couldn't find a way to get him in to see it for the extra $100,000? See, when you ask a question like that and agree to it, it's not that they don't want people to see it. It's a value proposition to them. What we have then to do is to start to dissect and what is that value proposition? Does that make sense?
That's huge right there, because when you say it like that, and that was one of the things I was going to say, is like, especially with you're dealing with the expireds who are really pushing against you. If you say to them, well, listen, if I was able to get you a cash offer for your full asking price, would you sell it today? Most of the time they will say yes. So now you just got to dive a little bit deeper and be like, well, what's holding you back? Because if that was the case, and then they're like, well, how can you do that? Well, that's not, I'll figure that part out. I just want to know how motivated you are, because if not at that very moment, they will tell you whether or not they want to be involved or not. Because if they say, no, I wouldn't take it, you got a non-motivated seller at that point. And now you're going to have to, and I love that pool shot. You're going to have to take a different approach. It's like, do I want to keep going down this rabbit trail? Is it worth it for me? Or do I put them up in my follow? And maybe this is something down 30 days from now when they're really more motivated. And that becomes a timing thing. And when people say, well, Brock, how can you get so many contacts a day? I'm playing pool every day, figuring out which one's motivated, which one's not, because I need to figure out what my next 30 days looks like, not my next 90 to 120 days.
We have a saying on this program from me that basically when I teach on the listing side, Brock, you'll probably like this, is the fact if you've got motivation on a seller, and even though they're unrealistic, I take the listing because motivation will trump denial. Sooner or later, it'll come to reality if there's motivation. If they have motivation, you're working for free. This one could be right up your alley. You have a lot of neighborhoods, golf course communities, things like that. So Brock, I want to list with an agent that has proven experience in my neighborhood. Matt, you be the seller.
Okay.
That's what you just said. Brock, this is yours.
Okay. So Matt, I completely understand that we do hear that quite often. What makes you know that they are a top agent in this neighborhood?
Well, I see their sign all the time.
Sure. Have you seen their sign any other place or just in this neighborhood?
Well, I usually spend most of my time in the neighborhood. I haven't gone outside looking in other neighborhoods to see if their sign's there, but I do notice that they're here quite a bit and do a lot of business here.
Do you think most of the buyers are in this neighborhood, or do you think they're outside this neighborhood?
You guys should be taking notes. This is like brilliant.
Well, they're probably moving in from another neighborhood or from another location.
One of the specialties that I do is I work with a lot of relocation companies, and I really emphasize outside the neighborhood where I can appreciate the agent in the neighborhood. And that's, to be honest with you, I'm very popular in my neighborhood because I work, live in, but I'm also popular outside the neighborhoods because that's where I get a lot of my buyers from. So I love to be able to at least have an opportunity with you for 30 minutes just to share with you our marketing strategies of how we sell homes in the neighborhood as well as outside the neighborhood. And if you still feel confident and comfortable with that other agent and they're going to, sell your home faster than we can, we're at the top dollar amount, then fair enough. But at least I love to have an opportunity with you.
Well, I guess do you at least have experience with the price point in this neighborhood?
Do I have experience in the price point was your question?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, I do. Do you have any other questions?
Well, I mean, that makes sense. I guess I'm just still a little suspicious. I'm not sure if I'll get the right exposure. I mean, if the other agent, you know, is, you know, they've got experience in this neighborhood, and they, obviously if their properties have been sold by him, he has the ability to get the property out there and get the market exposure.
Sure, that makes complete sense. So what I'm hearing you say is exposure is your number one ingredient that you feel is going to sell your home?
Well, I guess when you put it that way, that's probably the bottom line.
Show you our exposure and what we do with something that you at least listen to and what we do for our exposure?
I'm willing to listen to that.
Great. And I don't know if you want me to continue, but
So, all right. So hang on a second.
Matt, do you have more questions for me on what direction you wanted to go or thoughts?
I think
on that because I got one more that I want to do really fast. So
go ahead.
what do you guys' ahas on that? Brock was a master at acknowledging. Every time he said an acknowledgement has been different. Notice his tone of voice when he does it too. I mean, I feel like you're so nice. And this is kind of realistic. When he started with a role play, now this is really condensed and fast, so we don't have the time to really break it down. He was asking great questions about clarity. And here's the thing. It's very common. We didn't have time to unload it all. He was just dealing with that right there. It's very common when you don't unload the car, notice how it changed from someone with proven experience to exposure. However, that only would come out during the conversation. So if you think they're always talking about an agent that has proven experience, we have to dig a little bit to figure out what do you mean by that? Because it really boiled down, and I know that Matt is like making this up as he goes. Many times there's another way they're going to start to articulate their real concern that doesn't match the words they said initially. So keep digging until you figure out what that is, because here's the thing. If we're a surgeon, don't operate on everything. Just operate where it hurts.
And one of the things I'll add to Matt, and I'll ask you this question. There was a little moment and I sensed it. And as soon as I sensed it, it's like my shark tank went up or my fins go up. Is because to you, do you think the buyer's going to come from your neighborhood or outside the neighborhood? I posed inside your head a question and you didn't know that answer. And so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you really weren't too sure how to answer that, or you weren't 100% where the buyers come from, correct?
I just made an assumption that if they're coming into the neighborhood, they haven't lived there before, and that's not the source of the buyer.
And that was the key thing that I just take that to the next level, because now you're not too sure and inside your head whether people recognize it or not. Uncertainty. And when you have uncertainty, and if I do 3 uncertainties in a row, the chances of you at least giving me a chance increase drastically.
That's brilliant. That's right. Here's the thing. Another question could be, do you want an agent that has experience listing homes in your area or one that has experience selling them? So you ask them a question that it's going to make them go like, if that pause, exactly what Brock's talking about, that's an inch. Give me an inch, what? I'll take a mile. Last one. Here we go.
I got a question for you.
Time for? Whoops, here we go. I will only do a 30-day listing agreement.
Wait, did Alan have a question?
Yeah, I did, but I don't know which one to take. Currently, I've got a client. I'm working with them today, but 8 homes are selected from them. 5 of those 8 are listed at 4 of the 8 are listed at 2.5% commission, and 1 is listed for a flat $1,000. And in the market we're looking, the homes are selling literally within the first 2 weeks. In fact, of all these, of the 8, there's only 1 that's been on there for over 30 days and 1 that's up to almost 60. And I understand the script as far as trying to hold our place in commission, but as an alternative, instead of cutting the commission and still making a win for the seller, offering to do something like window washing. If you get the listing on a promotion you've got going, would that be a good alternative to suggest at times, especially in a market where it's as hot as it is?
You're asking me or Brock?
Either one of you.
I just so I understand, are you trying to get the listing at 2.5%, or is the buyer agent 2.5% and you're trying to earn your full commission of 3%, depending what area you live
Well,
in?
I guess what I'm mentioning is these are all different agents that have got these, but I'm just saying that over half of these 8 homes, the commission is 2.5 or less. And then the other question I had was, and this is a separate thing, but the one house the client really likes, the commission listed is $1,000. And this is on a $325,000 home. But
So if I was to answer the question, this is very typical. It happens around our area too, where buyer agency commissions are 11%. I just pick up the phone and call the listing agent because I know out of 10 times I will outscript them and they're not ready for me to ask for a commission. So I say, listen, if I was able to bring you a ready, willing, and able buyer at a reasonable price, are you willing to do my 3% commission? Because I'd like to come out there today. Most of the time they'll say, well, okay, it sounds like, you are willing to do 3% based off my offer. Is that fair to say? Well, I mean, I guess so. Most of the time they'll say yes, but they're 5%, because you want to know what an untrained listing agent will do who's not very proficient. They will take it out of their percentage before they will take it out of the seller's percentage, and they will go to their commission and say, hey, I got a buyer, we're going to go under contract. But if they're at 3%, we're at 2%, guess what? It'll be on the closing CD. I've seen it many times. We're at 3% and they're at 2.5% because I just out negotiated them and asked the right question. So that'd be the first thing, is I would call every listing agent and ask them to do 3%. I have to say it in that way, so then that way they understand, because it'll make them say no, are you not going to come to my house? I don't say that, but inside their head they might be thinking that. And then the 1%, that's a really tough one because you got 2% you got to gain.
It's not 1%, it's 1,000.
$1,000.
Oh,
$1,000.
$1,000. That's even more of a work that you got to do. Typically, it's an LLC is where I've seen those take shape. All you can do is ask for them. In this case, actually, it wasn't 1,000, it was 1%. So I called the listing agent. They said that's all they were doing. I said, no problem at all. I called up my buyer agent, or I called up my buyers and said, hey, listen, I just want to let you know that this company is only offering 1%. So I'm going to have to make up the difference of the 2%. Is this something that you're willing to do? Because I need to, obviously earn my money, and hopefully you've seen that in my services. Is this something that you're okay with? Because I've asked the seller and they're not willing to do the 2%. Guess what? Buyer agent wasn't, and we didn't go look at the house. And to be honest with you, it wasn't a very good house to begin with. I disclosed it. I brought it to their attention, and we didn't go look at the house.
Well, and it can be covered in your agency agreement up front. That's an interesting situation, $1,000.
That's sad.
Not a lot of fun. So you guys that are still on the call, I know it's 1 o'clock. I want to make sure we thank Brock. Thank you so much, Brock. You were awesome. I picked up some great pearls from you. I can tell why you're $150 million. You're probably above that now. That was probably an old bio. Why you sold 20 houses in June or May, I guess. You said June or May?
That was no, not June, May.
May. Awesome. Does anyone have any ahas they want to share? Last minute pointers before we go forward.
I'll leave a couple things. I put my information in the chat room for those that want to follow me, as well as corner on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I do this, but key ingredients a lot of people don't know. Like why I picked 30 minutes is what we found out, that less than 30 minutes, you're setting yourself up for failure, because if somebody who's analytical will be watching the clock, and you don't want them watching the clock, you want them listening to you. So you pretty much can do everything you can in 30 minutes. And if you go over 30 minutes, the chances of them increasing, saying, no, I don't have time, go up every minute past 30. So 30 minutes has been our key time for most success of yes, as well as those who are contemplating or thinking role playing. Our team has to do a minimum of 10 role plays a week. And for myself, on how my strength is to come into this, I do about 22 to 24 role plays a week. So the more proficient, just like anything that you do, the more you practice, the better you become, no matter if you're talking sports or role playing, handling objections, listing presentations. Those are the key things. And hey, I'm a black belt in real estate, because you can't tell all the and the skill sets that I have just walking down the street or walking into the home. And my mindset feels that way, where I come into it and I say it's kind of a disadvantage because I'm really good at this. and I'm going to be able to outscript you. And it's not by arrogance, it's just my confidence that I have going into it. And it does make a huge difference of your confidence going into listing presentations and picking up the phone. So those are my 2 cents I want. And I definitely appreciate this, Denny, and we'll open up any questions that anybody wants.
How's your chance? It's like church, we're just a few minutes late. Anything in the chat, Sonny? I don't have it all open.
No.
All right. Well, in the words of one of my favorite shows growing up, Hill Street Blues, be careful out there. Thank you, Brock.
Thanks, bud. I appreciate it, Denny.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Brock.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brock, Denny.